My name is Liri. People never called me beautiful. They looked at my face and turned away. But when their eyes fell on my body, everything changed. Welcome to African Tales by Khal, where African stories come to life. Subscribe and join our storytelling family. Liri was not the kind of woman people called pretty. Her nose was wide, her jaw a little sharp, and one eye sat just a bit lower than the other. When she looked into the mirror, she always felt like the pieces of her face did not belong to the same puzzle. But her body was different. Her hips curved like smooth waves, and her chest was full and heavy. On the street, men did not stare at her face. Their eyes dropped lower, then stayed there, hungry and bold. Liri noticed that from a young age. At first, it made her feel small. Then slowly, she realized something important. In a world that did not care for her face, her body could still open doors. She began to move like she knew she was being watched. When she walked through the dusty streets, her steps became slower. Her shoulder rolled back a little. Her tight tops clung to her breasts and her skirts hugged her waist. Women whispered, their eyes sharp with judgment. Men smiled, their voices suddenly softer when she passed by. Liri did not smile back often. She watched them instead. She started to notice which men had gold rings, which were fine wristwatches, who stepped out of big cars. She learned how to laugh at the right time, how to touch an arm lightly, how to pretend she was shy. Inside, she was not shy. Inside, she was busy counting. Liri did not wake up one day and decide to use men for rituals. It began with fear. Her mother lay on a mat, shaking with a sickness no doctor could name. "We have no more money, Liri," her mother whispered, sweat shining on her forehead. "Just pray." But Liri was tired of praying to a sky that stayed silent. One night, when the generator was off and the room was dark, her Aunt Sephu leaned close and whispered, "There is another way. There are people who can help you, but their help is not free." Liri turned to her. "What kind of people?" Sephu's eyes seemed to dim. "People who walk with the night river," she said. "They can give you power, money, even life for your mother. But something must be given in return." The shrine of the night river sat far from the main road, hidden behind a field of tall, whispering grass. Liri walked there with Sephu at dusk, her heart beating hard. Crickets screamed in the silence. At the center of the clearing stood a small round hut, its roof low, its walls painted with strange symbols. An old woman waited at the doorway, her gray hair braided tight to her scalp. Her name was Mother Sanaa. Her eyes were the color of river stones. "You brought her," Mother Sanaa said, her voice dry like old leaves. "Yes, Mama," Sephu murmured. "This is my sister's child." Liri swallowed. "I need help," she said. "My mother is dying. We have nothing." Mother Sanaa looked her up and down, from her uneven eyes to her full chest. "You have something," the old woman said quietly. "Do you know what you carry?" Liri crossed her arms over her chest, suddenly shy. "It is just my body," she muttered. Mother Sanaa chuckled, a low, heavy sound. "In this world, just your body is more powerful than a bag of gold," the old woman said. "Men lose their minds for what you carry. They lose their sense. They lose their souls." Liri frowned. "What do you mean?" Mother Sanaa stepped closer, the smell of herbs and smoke around her. "The night river is always hungry," she said. "It wants strong souls. Men who come willingly. Men who think they are chasing pleasure, not death. If you bring such men to us, the river will drink. In return, it will open its hand to you." Liri's throat felt dry. "You want me to use men?" she asked. "Use what they are already using," Mother Sanaa replied calmly. "They take your body. You take their fate." That night, Liri did not sleep. She sat on the floor next to her sick mother, listening to the woman's soft, broken breaths. Mother Sanaa's words echoed in her head. "They take your body. You take their fate." She felt her mother's thin hand and watched her chest rise and fall like it was struggling against a heavy stone. "What would you do, Mama?" Liri whispered. "Would you ask me to stop? Or would you tell me to save you?" Her mother's eyes stayed closed. The only answer was a weak cough. Liri's mind turned to the men who watched her in the market, in the bars, on the street. Men with loud laughs and greedy hands. Men who never thought about her fear. Slowly, a sharp thought settled inside her chest. I did not make this world. I am only learning to live in it. The first man was named Caro. He was broad-shouldered, with smooth skin and a beard trimmed in a neat line. He met Liri outside a small night bar, where the music was deep and heavy and the air smelled of sweat and cheap perfume. "You are walking alone?" Caro asked, leaning against his car. "A woman like you shouldn't be alone at night." Liri tilted her head. "Maybe I'm waiting for someone," she said. He smiled, his eyes dropping to her chest. "Let me be that someone," he replied. She laughed softly, like she wore a tight red dress that clung to her curves. When she sat down, every eye at the table seemed to follow her every move. Caro ordered drinks. "So what is your name?" he asked, leaning close so she could hear him over the music. "Liri," she replied. "That's a sweet name," he said. "You live around here?" "Not far," she answered. "You?" "I live better than not far," he laughed, tapping his car keys on the table. "I can show you my place tonight." Liri sipped her drink slowly. "You move fast," she teased. "When something is fine, you don't waste time," he said. His hand brushed her thigh. She looked at it, then at his face. Inside, her heart pounded with more than attraction. It was fear. It was decision. "Maybe I want to see this place," Liri said at last, her voice low. Caro's eyes brightened. "Good girl," he murmured. "Finish your drink." They talked for a while, simple, loud talk. Jokes about the DJ, stories about traffic, half-truths about their lives. Liri laughed when she needed to, rolled her eyes when it made her seem real. On the surface, she was just a woman enjoying a late-night adventure. Deep inside, she was counting again. Counting his pride, his confidence, his careless trust. When they finally stepped outside, the air felt cooler. "You're sure about this?" Caro asked, opening the car door for her. Liri looked at the dark road ahead, then back at him. "Yes," she said softly. "I'm sure." But she was not sure at all. She only knew she could not go back to being powerless. Caro's place was not far, just as he had bragged. The building stood taller than the others, painted fresh white, with bright lights at the entrance. "You see?" he said, guiding her inside. "I told you I live well." Liri smiled, pretending to be impressed. "It's nice," she said. His apartment smelled of strong cologne and new furniture. He poured her another drink. "Relax," he urged. "You look tense." She set the glass down untouched. "I'm just not used to this," she said, letting her voice tremble a little. "A big house, someone like you." Caro laughed, pleased. "Someone like me? What am I?" "Important," she replied. "Dangerous." He grinned widely. "Dangerous in a good way," he said, stepping closer. Liri let him come close. She let him wrap his arm around her. But when he leaned in to kiss her, her eyes were already watching the clock on the wall. A few hours later, the night was silent on the road outside the city. The car moved slowly over the rough path, its headlights cutting through the dark. Caro sat in the passenger seat now, his head lolling weakly to one side. He was not fully awake, not fully asleep. "Where are we going?" he mumbled. Liri's fingers tightened on the steering wheel. "Just somewhere quiet," she said. "You drank too much. You need fresh air." He chuckled weakly. "You're a good girl," he whispered. "Too good for me." Liri did not answer. Her heart beat hard in her ears. Mother Sanaa had given her a small bottle at the shrine, filled with clear liquid. "Just a few drops," the old woman had said. "They will sleep. They will walk into the river's mouth with their own feet." Liri pressed her lips together and kept driving. The clearing looked different at night. The tall grass shifted like dark hands in the wind. Liri stopped the car and turned off the engine. For a moment, everything was too quiet. She could hear Caro's slow breathing beside her. "We're here," she said softly. His eyes blinked open. "Where is this?" he croaked. "Just outside the city," she lied. "Come, let's walk a little." He frowned, confused, but he followed her when she opened his door and pulled him up. His steps were heavy, his body relaxed from the drink, his mind slow. They walked into the tall grass, then into the circle where the hut waited. A small fire burned outside, throwing orange light on Mother Sanaa's face. "You have done well," the old woman said. Liri's stomach twisted. Caro tried to speak. "What is this?" he asked. Liri could not look at his eyes for long. She turned to Mother Sanaa instead. "I brought him," she said, her voice shaking. "Now what?" The old woman gestured toward the ground. Strange symbols were drawn in the dirt, circles within circles. "Stand him in the center," Mother Sanaa ordered. Liri took Caro's arm. "Just stand here," she said softly. "It's a game, don't worry." He laughed weakly. "You're a strange girl," he muttered, but he obeyed, swaying slightly. Mother Sanaa began to chant in a low, steady voice. The fire seemed to rise higher, though no one touched it. A wind with no source brushed over Liri's skin. "Do not move," Mother Sanaa hissed. Liri's legs felt locked. Caro's smile slowly faded as he looked around. "Liri, what is this?" he repeated, his voice now clear with fear. "Close your ears," Mother Sanaa called out. Liri lifted her hands, pressing her palms to the sides of her head. Even then, she could still hear the chant, like it was inside her bones. The air grew heavier. The shadows lengthened, stretching like fingers. Liri squeezed her eyes shut. She did not want to see what the night river took, how it swallowed. She only focused on her mother's face, pale on the mat. "You will live, Mama," she whispered in her mind. "You will live." The chanting rose, then stopped suddenly. The silence that followed was thick and deep. When Mother Sanaa finally said, "It is done," Liri opened her eyes slowly. The center of the circle was empty. Caro was gone. Nothing moved except the fire. Liri's knees shook. "Where is he?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "He has been carried," Mother Sanaa replied calmly. "The night river has taken its drink." Liri stared at the empty space, her chest tight. "Does that mean my mother?" Mother Sanaa walked closer and placed a dry hand on Liri's shoulder. "Return home," she said. "You will see your sign." Liri's throat burned. "How many must I bring?" she asked. "Until the river says stop," the old woman said. "Power has a price, child. But remember, they come willingly. You only open the door they already want to walk through." Liri looked down at her own body, the curves that had always drawn unwanted eyes. Tonight they had drawn death. "And if I refuse," she whispered, "then your mother dies, and the river turns its face from you forever," Mother Sanaa answered. "Choose." Liri closed her eyes. When she opened them again, she had already chosen. When Liri returned home, dawn was just beginning to stretch across the sky. The pale light slipped through the curtains and touched her mother's face. Liri froze at the doorway. Her mother was sitting up, truly sitting, breathing steadily, her eyes clear and awake. "Liri?" she whispered, her voice stronger than it had been in weeks. Liri dropped to her knees beside the mat. "Mama, you're awake, how?" Her mother brushed a hand across her cheek. "I had a dream," she murmured. "A river dark and wide. A voice telling me to get up." Liri felt tears sting her eyes, but they were not only tears of relief. They were tears of guilt too, hot and heavy. "It's a miracle," her mother said. Liri forced a smile and nodded. "Yes, Mama, a miracle." But inside her chest, something heavy twisted. A miracle bought with blood. Later that morning, Aunt Sephu arrived at the house, acting like nothing unusual had happened. "How are you feeling, sister?" she asked cheerfully. Liri's mother smiled. "I feel light, as if something lifted me from the inside." Sephu nodded knowingly. Liri caught her aunt's gaze and held it. The two women walked outside. The sun was bright, warming the dusty earth. "You saw what power can do," Sephu said softly. "Your mother's life was pulled back from the edge." Liri crossed her arms tightly. "Do not talk like this is something normal," she snapped. Sephu stepped closer. "Life is not gentle. People do worse every day to survive. You think you're the first to make a trade." Liri looked at her with hurt and anger. "I killed someone, Sephu." Sephu shook her head. "The river took him. You only guided him there." Liri turned away, but she could still hear her aunt's voice. "You have stepped onto the path. You cannot step back now." For 3 days, Liri stayed home, refusing to go out. She cleaned the house, cooked for her mother, and tried to pretend she was just another ordinary girl in an ordinary place. But every time she saw her reflection, she felt the weight again. They take your body. You take their fate. The words lived in her skull like echoes. Her mother noticed her silence. "Liri, why are you sad?" she asked one evening. "Something troubles your heart." Liri shook her head quickly. "I'm just tired, Mama." Her mother reached out and held her hand. "You are a good girl," she whispered. "You have always tried to protect us." Liri almost broke then. She wanted to fall to the floor and confess everything. She wanted someone to tell her she was not a monster. But instead, she forced a smile and kissed her mother's forehead. "Rest, Mama," she whispered. "I'm fine." Deep inside, she was anything but fine. On the fourth night, Mother Sanaa's voice came to her through the wind, soft, like someone whispering through the walls. "The river waits," it said. Liri's heart jumped. She sat up suddenly, breathing fast. Outside, the moon was full and bright, hanging like a cold coin in the sky. The streets were quiet. Her mother slept peacefully. Liri stood at the window, staring out into the night. "How many must I bring?" she whispered to the moon. There was no answer, only silence and wind. But her decision had already been made the day Caro disappeared. If she tried to leave now, the river might take her mother back, or take Liri herself. Power does not release its hands once they close. So she dressed slowly, choosing a deep blue dress that clung to her curves. She brushed her hair and painted her lips. Tonight she would hunt. The night market was alive with music and laughter. People shouted over loudspeakers, roasted meat sizzled on open flames, and bright lights blinked along the stalls. Liri walked through the crowd, her hips moving like a rhythm of their own. Eyes followed her immediately, hungry, curious, shameless. But Liri was not looking for just anyone. She watched carefully, studying faces, watching body language. She needed someone confident, someone who thought he controlled the night. Someone who would follow her without question. Then she saw him. Tall, with a clean shirt tucked neatly into dark trousers and a gold chain gleaming at his neck. He laughed loudly, surrounded by friends, his voice booming with pride. A man who carried himself like he owned the world. Liri stepped closer, pretending to browse jewelry at a stall nearby. She turned slightly as if by accident, letting him take in the shape of her body. His eyes locked on her instantly. Yes, she thought. This one. He walked toward her with a confident stride. "Good evening," he said, voice smooth like oil. Liri turned slowly, pretending to be surprised. "Oh, hello." He smiled. "Forgive me, but I had to come. A woman like you cannot walk past without notice." Liri let her eyes flicker shyly downward. "Is that so?" He nodded and extended his hand. "My name is Daru." She let him take her hand gently. "Liri," she replied. "A beautiful name," he said. "Are you here alone?" She shrugged lightly. "Just walking." Daru leaned slightly closer. "Let me walk with you. The night is too long to spend alone." Liri laughed softly. "Is that your best line?" "No," Daru grinned. "My best line is waiting for the right moment." His friends watched from a distance, nudging each other and smiling. Liri tilted her head. "Show me this best line," she challenged. "Follow me then," he said. And she did. They found a quiet corner near the edge of the market, where the music sounded softer and the wind carried the smell of rain. They talked about simple things, work, family, dreams. Daru said he ran a small transport business. "I work hard," he said proudly. "I plan to be a big man soon. A man everyone will respect." Liri smiled. "Ambition is good." Daru looked at her slowly, his eyes darkening. "You are different," he said softly. "Women like you do not come around often." Liri lowered her gaze. "You don't even know me." "Then let me know you," he replied. He reached out and touched her hand. His touch was warm, firm, sure. "Let me take you somewhere quiet. We can talk more." Liri hesitated for a long moment. Then she nodded. "All right," she breathed. "Lead the way." Inside her chest, fear and determination collided like stones. Daru drove a dark blue car with soft leather seats and a clean scent. You are safe with me, he promised as he opened the passenger door. Liri smiled weakly. I believe you. She did not believe him, not truly, but she knew he believed himself. As the car moved through the city, he talked confidently, telling stories about success, about deals he made, about how people admired him. Liri looked out the window, watching lights blur past. Why must the proud be so easy to draw? She wondered bitterly. When the road grew quieter and the buildings thinned, Dur finally noticed. This is far from the city, he said, frowning. Liri placed a hand on his arm. It's peaceful here, she whispered, her voice soft like honey. Trust me. He looked at her eyes, then at her body, then back at the road. For you I will, he murmured. They stopped near the same field where Caro had disappeared. The night air felt colder, heavy with unseen eyes. Dur stepped out of the car and stretched. What is this place? He asked. Liri walked slowly around to him. Somewhere we can talk without noise, she whispered. He smiled, misunderstanding completely. I like the way you think. They walked into the clearing. Dur looked around, puzzled. Are we alone? He asked. Yes, Liri said quietly. Completely. Good, Dur said, stepping closer. Then maybe I can. His voice stopped when he saw the firelight flicker ahead and Mother Sanaa rising from the darkness. What? Who is that? He demanded. Liri swallowed. Do not run, she said softly. Do not be afraid. Dur stepped back, alarm in his eyes. Liri, what is happening? She met his gaze with trembling resolve. I am sorry, she whispered. I need to save someone I love. Mother Sanaa lifted her hand and the flames rose higher, painting the ground in bright orange. Bring him forward, she commanded. Dur shook his head violently. No. Stay away from me. Liri, what is this madness? He tried to back away, but the air thickened around him, making his steps heavy and slow. Liri grabbed his arm gently. Please don't fight, she said. It will be easier if you don't. Dur stared at her like he was seeing a stranger. I trusted you, he whispered. Liri's voice broke. I know. She guided him toward the center of the drawn symbols, though every step felt like walking barefoot over blades. When he reached the middle, Mother Sanaa began her chant. The wind howled. The fire twisted high. Dur's voice rose in fear. Liri, what are they doing to me? Help me. Liri shut her eyes tightly, tears spilling onto her cheeks. The chant grew louder, shaking the ground beneath them. Dur's voice cracked into a scream. Liri, please. I don't want to die. Liri pressed her hands over her ears, but his voice tore straight through her, ripping into her chest. She wanted to run forward, to pull him out, to undo everything. But her feet were frozen by fear and by the river's grip. Mother Sanaa's voice cut through the screams. The river claims its hunger. The fire blazed white. The wind roared. Then silence. Thick, sudden silence. When Liri opened her eyes, the center of the circle was empty again. Dur was gone. Only smoke curled upward like thin fingers reaching for the sky. Liri fell to her knees. How many more? She whispered, her voice shaking like a broken string. Mother Sanaa looked down at her. As many as it takes, she said. Power is never paid once. Liri walked back to the car alone. Her body felt heavy and cold, like she was made of stone. She gripped the steering wheel but could not start the engine. Her hands shook too violently. She pressed her forehead against the leather and cried, silent, painful tears that burned her skin. I am becoming a monster, she thought. How many lives will I take before I drown myself? Wind whistled through the tall grass, whispering like distant voices. Ride this path, and you will rise, the voice said. Liri looked up sharply, but no one was there. She closed her eyes and forced the car to move. The drive felt endless. Her chest ached with every breath. I saved my mother, she whispered to the empty road. I saved her. I did. But saving her did not feel like victory. It felt like chains tightening around her throat. When Liri reached home, her mother was waiting at the doorway, supported by the wall but standing strong. Liri, where did you go? She asked softly. Liri wiped her face quickly. Just out to clear my head. Her mother touched her cheek. You've been crying. Liri shook her head. It's nothing. But her mother did not look convinced. Pain does not hide easily, child, she said. Liri forced a smile that felt like a mask. I'm just tired. Her mother nodded slowly. Whatever storm you carry, do not let it drown you. Liri froze at the words. For a moment, she thought her mother knew everything. The air grew too tight to breathe. I'm fine, she whispered again. She kissed her mother's hand and went inside, closing the door behind her. Alone, she sank to the floor and covered her face. She felt like her soul was falling through darkness with no bottom. Days passed slowly. Liri tried to return to normal life. She cooked breakfast, swept the yard, washed clothes. She smiled when neighbors greeted her, laughed when her mother told old stories, nodded when Aunt Sephu spoke about blessings. But inside, she felt hollow, like someone had scooped out her insides and left an echoing space where her heart should be. At night she could not sleep. She heard Dara's screams in her dreams, heard Caro's confused voice calling her name. Sometimes she woke with her hands over her ears, as if she could block out memories. Each sunrise felt like a warning. The river still waits. She tried to pray, but her voice felt too dirty to reach God. How do I escape? She whispered into her pillow. No answer came. No voice comforted her. Only silence. And silence was the worst sound of all. One evening, while Liri sat outside watching the sky fade into deep purple, Aunt Sephu came to sit beside her. You look thin, Sephu said softly. Pain is eating you. Liri didn't respond. Sephu looked at her with tired eyes. The river gives power, but it also takes pieces of the heart. If you let guilt rule you, it will destroy you faster than any curse. Liri turned slowly. How many have you taken? She asked. Sephu looked away. Enough to bury my shame, she whispered. Enough to live. Liri swallowed hard. I don't want to live like this, she said. Sephu gripped her hand. Then you must learn to feel nothing. The river rewards those who do not tremble. You must become stone. Liri stared at her aunt with silent horror. Stone. She wondered if she would one day forget the names of the men she led to death. She wondered if her heart would someday stop bleeding. She wondered if she would survive long enough to find out. Please like, subscribe, share, and on your notifications for part 2.